the reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable.
And this should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his...
He's a friend of
today?
CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore.
Who advised the president on the legality of telling government agencies that they don't have to spend money that was already appropriated by Congress?
Well, as the OMB memo states, this is certainly within the confines of the law. So White House counsel's office believes that this is within the president's power to do it, and therefore he's doing it.
Okay, so they disagree with lawmakers who say that they don't have the power to freeze this funding.
Again, I would point you to the language in the memo that clearly states this is within the law.
Karoline Leavitt and Kaitlan Collins have clashed once again, and this time it's making waves. Ever since Leavitt took over as White House press secretary, these two have been in a constant back and forth, with Leavitt usually coming out on top. But their latest exchange was so intense that people are starting to question how Collins is still holding on to her job. So, what did Leavitt say that left Collins stumbling on live TV? And could this be the moment that truly damages Collins' credibility? Leavitt and Collins have had their fair share of heated debates in recent weeks, but this latest encounter has the media buzzing like never before. It all began when Collins, confident as ever, tried to put Leavitt on the spot with a tough question. What happened next? Let's break it down.
Which White House official made the decision to bar the AP reporter from the Oval Office and the diplomatic reception room last night?
Well, first of all, let me just set the record straight. It is a privilege to cover this White House. It's a privilege to be the White House press secretary. And nobody has the right to go into the Oval Office and ask the President of the United States questions. That's an invitation that is given. And there are hundreds of outlets on this campus, many of you in this room who don't have the privilege of being part of that pool every single day and getting to ask the president questions. We reserve the right to decide who gets to go into the Oval Office, and you all have credentials to be here, including the Associated Press, who is in this briefing room today.
At first glance, the question seemed simple, harmless, even, but don't be fooled. This was a setup, a classic gotcha attempt. Kaitlan Collins wasn't just asking. She was laying a trap, hoping for that viral moment. The clip where she exposes some major contradiction in the Leavitt-Trump administration. With a smug look and full confidence, Collins was sure she had it all figured out. But here's the thing. Karoline Leavitt isn't some inexperienced spokesperson struggling with talking points. She's a political fighter. She saw Collins' move coming a mile away, and instead of falling for it, she flipped the script hard. Not only did she sidestep the trap, but she turned it back on Collins in a way that left the CNN journalists scrambling. By stating that access to the Oval Office isn't a guaranteed privilege for journalists, Leavitt wasn't just pushing back. She was delivering a full-blown mic drop moment. It was a masterclass in control, flipping the narrative before Collins even realized what happened. Now, take a listen to this clip, and I'll break it all down afterward.
But isn't it retaliatory in nature is the argument, because the reason that the AP was barred, which they said was because they're not using the phrase Gulf of America, they're using Gulf of Mexico in line with their standards. And so the question here is this setting a precedent that this White House will retaliate against reporters who don't use the language that you guys believe reporters should use? And how does that align with the First Amendment commitment that you were just talking about?
I was very upfront in my briefing on day one that if we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. And it is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America. And I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that, but that is what it is.
With her gotcha moment slipping away, Kaitlan Collins dropped the act and revealed what this was really about: the Associated Press and its so-called ban from the Oval Office. The goal? To paint the Trump administration as hypocrites, loud defenders of the First Amendment who suddenly got nervous once they were in power. Classic media spin. Collins was convinced she had the perfect angle. But here's where it all fell apart. Karoline Leavitt, always steps ahead, wasn't about to let Collins twist the story. With a calm yet razor-sharp response, she reminded everyone that holding the media accountable for lies, distortions, and propaganda wasn't just a promise. It was a priority that included making sure outlets like the AP, which had recklessly spread misinformation, weren't automatically entitled to access the most powerful office in the world. The message was clear. Press freedom doesn't mean freedom from consequences. And just like that, Collins' big expose turned into yet another self-inflicted disaster. But did she learn her lesson? Apparently not. Because here she is again, going head-to-head with none other than Donald Trump himself.
RFK Jr. as the next health secretary, citing conspiracy theories. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I feel sorry for Mitch. And I was one of the people that led. He wanted to go to the end and he wanted to stay leader. He's not equipped mentally. He wasn't equipped 10 years ago mentally, in my opinion. He let the Republican Party go to hell. If I didn't come along, the Republican Party wouldn't even exist right now. Mitch McConnell never really had it. He had an ability to raise money because of his position as leader, which anybody could do. You could do it even. And that's saying a lot.
Trump shut her down, not because she was just being pushy, but because she was flat out disrespectful. It's his office, his rules. He decides who speaks and when. If he doesn't call on you, you don't get to hijack the moment. Simple as that. But instead of following protocol like every other journalist in the room, Kaitlan Collins tried to bulldoze her way through. Trump wasn't silencing the press. He was keeping order and making sure other reporters had a fair chance to ask their questions. The smart move for Collins would have been to wait her turn like a professional. But, as we've seen, restraint isn't exactly CNN's strong suit. And Trump wasn't done with her just yet. While answering a question about Mitch McConnell, he took a direct swipe at Collins.
This should have been done by Biden years ago. This should have never been allowed to happen. I know he's a friend of yours.
But couldn't Putin just withdraw his...
He's a friend of
today?
CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore.
Donald Trump knows how to land a punch. And this time, Kaitlan Collins was on the receiving end of a brutal one. With just a few sharp jabs, he had her scrambling, grasping for a comeback that never came. And then came the knockout blow. He looked her straight in the eye and told her she was just as incompetent as Mitch McConnell. Ouch! For a brief moment, the room fell silent as the weight of that insult sank in. Collins had walked in expecting to control the narrative, but instead, she got publicly dismantled. This wasn't just a casual remark. It was a calculated strike that exposed her bias, weak arguments, and failed attempts at playing tough. Trump wasn't just shutting her down. He was reminding her, and the entire press corps, who was really in charge. And judging by Collins' stunned expression, the message was loud and clear. But Trump wasn't finished just yet.
When they went to the Capitol and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police officers, why did it take you 3 hours to tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out. So if you look at on January 5th, the day before, I said, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. This was the day before, and this was in the form of Twitter. Now I use Truth Social. I think it's far superior, okay? I hope everybody's like that. I hope everybody's on Truth. If you look January 6th, this is before 2:30. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there. I am asking, and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on Truth and I'm staying on Truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
Leavitt nailed it. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And by that definition, the left and the woke media must be completely out of their minds. For years, they've been setting the same traps, twisting words, taking things out of context, and convincing themselves that this will finally be the moment Trump or his team crumbles. And every single time, total disappointment. Do they learn? Nope. They double down, recycle the same tired tactics, and somehow expect a different outcome. It's like watching a bad magician perform the same trick, hoping the audience won't notice the wires. They roll out their so-called bombshell reports, thinking they finally got him. And then bam! Trump or Leavitt shuts them down with facts, logic, and ironclad ability to handle media hysteria. At this point, it's not even a fair fight. It's like a toddler challenging a heavyweight boxer and getting knocked flat every time. But hey, let them keep trying. If history has proven anything, it's that the only thing the left is better at than losing is not realizing they're losing. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.